Well, I noticed that you did some roles in Cincinnati that were not musicals.
I did Shopping and Fucking my senior year, which is a play by Mark Ravenhill, who's a British writer. He wrote around the time Sarah Kane did in the early 90s. But that's because me and my friends were all really fed up, and we all quit the big show that we were doing.
So
to produce it ourselves. We did it in like a classroom.
Oh, so this wasn't a university production?
No, it was not.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think that my department chair might take a stance at doing shopping. And
Yeah, it was. We got in trouble with it.
I don't know. It might not go over with the alumni. I'm not sure.
It's a good play.
Yeah, it is. It's a fascinating play. It's an important play and a serious play.
It is.
And it's a lot to bite off as an undergraduate, that's for sure. So, did you do any other straight theater work while you were at
No,
that was
nothing. No, I mean, we studied it, and we studied Shakespeare, we studied, different styles of straight theater, but we didn't perform it.
So, then, how did you manage to finish your BFA at the Cincinnati Conservatory and get this role so quickly? I mean, how soon was it?
It was such a fluke. I got it maybe 2 months after I graduated. I had already been working, I had my equity card already. I'd been working professionally during the summers at different regional theaters. But when we graduated, our school did a showcase in New York, which is how we got introduced to the professional world of New York.
Yeah.
We do a showcase and...
Explain what that is. What is it for those who don't understand what a showcase is?
It's sort of we graduated about 12 people, and it's a collection of scenes or songs or musical numbers or monologues that the class puts together, where everyone is sort of showcased, both in scenes and by themselves, that you perform. It's about an hour long for industry professionals. And usually the showcases, people take them to New York and LA, or sometimes Chicago too.
Yeah.
And you invite, the theater, the program ideally has some connections, or the director. I mean, I think CCM has been doing it for like 20 years, so people always come.
And the university sponsors this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And and agents come and casting directors, and then it's so nerve-wracking because it feels like everything builds up to that, and there's definitely too much weight on it. You do it, and then you get called. You get this slip of paper with the agents circle your name if they're interested in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. Do some people not get any circles at all?
I got like way less circles than everybody else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how did that make you feel?
Like, bad. But I did it half-heartedly because honestly, by the time I graduated, I didn't want a career in musical theater, and the showcase was limited to doing that.
Oh, I see. Casting directors come then?
Yeah, casting directors came, but I managed to get, everybody, it was all about who's going to sign, because you have to sign. It's so much better to sign with an agent exclusively.
Right.
And of course, most of my class got great agents, and I didn't. I was freelancing because I looked about 12 at the time, and I was one agent was interested in me, and it was a children's agent.
Right. My goodness.
Yeah. So I was freelancing with a children's agent. And I think the first audition that he got for me was for Queer as Folk.
Wow.
And it was a very, very general audition, meaning there was no one with any power in the room. It was like a tiny closet and a casting assistant with a camcorder just put me on tape. And then they would mail the tapes to LA.
I see.
And I don't know, I think probably they only looked at me initially, even looked at my tape because I was physically right for it, because I was blonde and because I was young.
And they were trying to Queer as Folk, just, most people are familiar with it, and a lot of people, if you have probably watched many episodes of this series, it was based on a British series, so there were prototypes for these characters that were already established from the British series. So they were trying to cast someone similar in type to the British guy.
For the most part, yeah.
So then what happened? You did this.
I just put myself on tape. I didn't think anything about it.
And so you're in a room, just an empty room with one low-level person and a camera, and that's about it.
That's it. That's what's interesting. The difference between auditioning for film and television and for theater is a drastic difference just in the space. I had been always auditioning for theater until then, and you're usually in a large room where you can move, and there's usually a table with 3 or 4 or 5 people at it. There's usually a reader who's a professional actor who's good, who engages with you and helps you. And when you audition for film and television, there's usually, you're in a tiny room with a camera sometimes like that close. You can't move even if it's a scene where you're running around because they just kind of want to see what you look like. And usually it's a third or fourth casting assistant on the initial audition who's recording you and also reading the sides with you. So they'll be like, hey, they're not actors and they don't even look at you.
They're not giving you anything.
No, it's such a bizarre experience, especially if you're used to it. But that's what the initial audition was like. And you do it and you forget about it. And I think it was a few weeks later, I was working in St. Louis at the St. Louis the Municipal Theater.
Oh, so you got lucky pretty early on. You got a gig at...
That's where I got my equity card. I'd worked there the year before.
Uh-huh. And what were you doing there?
I got my equity card during 1776.
Oh, great show.
Playing the Courier.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, I don't even remember because I only ended up being there for about a week of rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I got there and I was doing that, and I actually was thinking that I wasn't going to move to New York permanently when it was finished. I felt like pursuing musical theater was sort of a dead end at that point for me, and I thought television would be good for me. So I was thinking about moving to LA.
Yeah. That's kind of the decision that young actors have to make too, isn't it? Which coast are you going to go to?
Right.
Unlike England, where everybody goes to London, here you have to make a choice.
You have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And LA is good. There's so much more within LA, especially if you're young and attractive.
Right.
And if you don't do musical theater, it's hard to know why to move to New York unless you really want to do classical theater.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you work constantly in professional theater in New York, there's not a living to be made.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know then, but
Yeah, it's sad but true on the whole. I mean, there are always exceptions.
you can
to
get
it.
production contracts, but those are usually musicals.
And there are people who travel from one regional gig to the next.
That's
and
true.
Spend their life doing that. If you like travel, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. So I was in St. Louis, and then I found out I got a call back, and they were going to fly me to LA, which was amazing to me because I'd never been to LA before, and I was thinking about moving to LA, and I just thought. I was never nervous about it because it was so far out of what I thought I would be doing with my career in any way that it always just seemed kind of like a fluke and sort of funny.
So what happened? You
So
get to
they
LA.
flew me to LA, and I was like, wow. I think they even flew me first class. It might have been first
Oh my
class.
gosh. That's an experience, isn't it?
I know.
The hot towels and everything.
I know. I might not have been first class. I don't. But the hotel was nice, and I'd never been to LA. So to me, it was just a free trip to a city that had never been to, that I was thinking about moving to. So it was constructive. I walked around and tried to get to know the city. And then the audition was just part of it, and I wasn't nervous because I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Was it the same kind of thing the second time around, or was it
It
called
was the
that
same
different?
scenes, but it was in a room with producers. It was like a producer session.
Did they pair you up with other actors at all?
And you know what's funny? I know they flew me out twice, but for some reason now I can only remember one of the callbacks, which I knew was the final one. I know they did the last time. The last time they paired us with actors. And we went in repeatedly.
Repeated.
We were there for like 3 hours, and then you'd sit out and you'd wait, and they'd call you in with another actor, and then they'd call you in by yourself, then they'd come out and give you some adjustments, and then you'd see different actors.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And so then you had to wait again, or did they
Yeah,
let
no,
you
then
know?
I went back to St. Louis again. Probably worked for 2 days, and then they flew me out again, and then that's the time when they paired me. And then by the time I flew back to St. Louis, I found out that I got the job.
And so where were you when you found this out? This is
I was
life-changing.
in the hotel.
Yeah, you were in the hotel
Yeah.
by yourself?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was like, oh, and what's also interesting, which I didn't know, is in television you negotiate the contract before you get the job. So like in theater you get the job, and then they try to get money for you, and then, tell you where you're going to live or if they're going to pay for your transportation. In television, part of why you negotiate it beforehand. So you have to sign the contract and the callback before you even know you have the job.
Oh, really?
So like everybody going up for Justin signed the contract.
So did your children's theater agent get to do the negotiating? Or
Yeah, he did it all.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and it could have been done better.
We won't mention his name then, right?
No, I mean, it was a huge, weird opportunity for us both. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly in the big leagues there.
Yeah. And I found out in the hotel, and it was kind of a relief.
Uh-huh.
Because I think school was really frustrating for me, as I think I hinted at, and the showcase was not a successful venture for me. So I felt like, okay, for the past 4 years, I felt like I'd been living off my own belief. You know, I had gotten very little support or reassurance as far as my capabilities or my ability to have a career. So I felt like I was fueling myself for so long to sort of finally get an opportunity and a confirmation that, okay, all right, I'm going to be capable of doing this. It was a real comfort for me.
Yeah, yeah, and as it turned out, actually, the showcase was successful for you because you got the children's
Right, no, yeah,
agent,
it was.
and he got you
It was successful.
the audition.
But you know, when you're there and everybody's like, I got 17 agents, how many did you get? You're like,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about perspective too. Now that you
Right.
can step back and see, oh gosh, that was all working out the way it was supposed to. But
Right, now.
Yeah. Well, had you seen the British series?
I hadn't. At that point, I'd only read the pilot script to the American series,
Mm-hmm. And so
which was like the first 3 episodes. I mean, it was long. It was like an hour and a half, I think.
So, what did you think of when you read it for the first time?
I remember thinking, oh, I could play this part. And I remember sort of being, oh, it's kind of cheesy. But I just remember having like critical ideas and thinking, trying to figure out what they wanted, which was far more what my focus was when I was leaving school, as far as figuring out how you're going to get the part. How are you going to convince them that you're this person? And that's what I saw when I read the
So you
script.
kind of have to do that, don't you?
You do. You have to do other things, though. But at that point, all I was thinking about is, all right, I can do this. All right, this is what I need to do. This is what I need. Like, this is the quality that they think this character needs. So I'm going to act like that's what I am when I go into the room.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what my major focus was when I read it.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it was fun, and I remember reading it and finding it hard to believe that they were going to make it. And I was excited by the idea that.
Well, explain about that. Why is that?
Because it was so gay. It was so. Nothing like that had been seen on television before. Like, straight versions of it had existed all the time, but just the fact that they were going to show sexuality was a big deal then. I mean, this was in 2000. And I was like, I bet it's not going to get made, or it's going to get cut out. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, it really
but then
is.
I was like, well, it's Showtime. I mean, they'll probably go for it. They need some attention.
Exactly. The cable
network.
the cable networks can do things that the regular networks can't.
But they hadn't yet.
Not with gay characters.
No.
Yeah.
So that's what I found exciting about it at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me was interesting. I was like, if I'm a part of this, that would be funny.
Well, now, in this original script that you read, the pilot episode, was there any graphic sex in that?
Uh-huh.
So, what did you think when you read that? I mean, did you think, oh, great, I mean, that'll be fun to do, or did it kind of scare you?
No, it didn't scare me. I mean, I'd done sexual things. I've done roles. I did shopping and
Shopping
fucking.
and fucking, yeah.
I'd done shopping and fucking. I did Hello Again. It's never been anything that scared me.
Right. So that didn't have a impact on you.
I was thinking it's funny. Make people uncomfortable.
Well, no, so while we're on the subject then, so in filming these things, I mean, was that perfectly comfortable as well? I mean, did you feel as comfortable when you were shooting it as you did when you...
It's an awkward experience, mostly.
I always wondered about that, especially when you see big stars on the screen engaged in these very graphic scenes. You think, wow, what was going through their heads when they were...
What's weird is you get really used to it.
Isn't that interesting?
Probably like a prostitute. You're like, oh, this is what we do, let's do it.
So then, how long a time span was it from the time you got sent for this audition until you started shooting the first episode?
I think maybe 2 months. I mean,
wow.
I got the job and I flew back to St. Louis. I told everybody I had to get out of my contract. They let me out of my contract for that job. I drove home to Atlanta to drop my car off with my parents, and then it was probably just 2 or 3 weeks.
And suddenly you're acting in a major series.
In Toronto, a city I've never ever been to.
It was shot in Toronto?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Why did they make that decision?
At the time, the Canadian dollar was really weak, so it was really helpful, and it was just so much cheaper to shoot.
The setting was Pittsburgh, but did you do exterior shots in the city of Toronto?
We never went to Pittsburgh. Everything was in Toronto.
Everything was in Toronto.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.